Hello, everyone, and welcome to another low-code live build. I'm Jan de Vries, your low-code host for today. Now, joining me today are Willem van Zantvoort and Maarten Bongers, senior expert consultants and Mendix MVPs at Timeseries. And in today's session, they will take a deep dive into what Mendix Studio Pro 9 brings in terms of workflow. We're not just going to be talking about it, we'll be showing you hands-on. We'll be building an app from scratch with a workflow process. Now, what that process is, we'll find out soon enough. But first, I want to welcome Maarten and Willem to the session. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, Jan. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, really great to have you guys here. Let's get started with an agenda of what we're going to be seeing today. So here we go. First of all, what's going to happen during the live build? You can ask your questions and so on. Then we're going to take a little look at what the processes that we'll be building, and we'll actually show a little demo of the application of what it looks like after we finished building it, so that you get an idea of what it is that we're working towards. And of course, step 4 is we'll actually build it, or let's work it. Let's workflow things. And of course, at the end, we'll do a little recap of the main important things that we've learned in the session. And we'll even give you some resources, some links to helpful documents and content and videos that will help you get started with Mendix workflow right now. And of course, at the end, we'll get to your questions. Let's take a look at what the session looks like. So during the live build, as usual, things will be recorded. We're recording right now, and it will be available right after the session ends. So you can watch it again at your own pace. You can share it with your colleagues or your network and go through it yourself. Of course, put your questions in the chat. I already saw people chatting, so keep it up. And yeah, if you have any good questions, we'll make sure to ask Maarten and Willem what they think and see if they can give you the answer that you're looking for. Now, of course, as usual, in a low-code live build, we share the project files so that you can download them, make your own app, and we have 2 files in this package that you can download using the link that you see on the screen. There is the empty state, which is the starting point of this live build, and there's the final state. So the completed version, including the completed workflow, the pages, and everything you need to run the application. Now let's take a look at what we are making today. So the process we'll be building is a production process, and we'll take an existing process and optimize it using Mendix workflow. Now, what the process is, I'll leave the reveal to Maarten and Willem. But what's most important is that they'll be using the workflow comments module. They'll be making an integration using Microflows and a lot of other really cool features. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Maarten. Tell us more about the app itself.
Yes, thanks, Jan. Yeah, let's first take a look at the process that we're going to build today. So it's going to be a cat robot manufacturing process. And for this process, we have 3 user roles. We have the product manager, we have a purchase manager, a supply manager, and that are the 3 roles that we have. First up with the product manager, he's got to start the production process. Then we have purchase manager who can check if the price for the cat robots is okay. And we have a supply manager who will check if the supplies are efficient. And after that, the process will go to an external application, the cat robot machine, which gets the order to actually start producing the cat robots. And finally, the product manager can finish up the process. So that's the process that we're gonna be building. Now let's take a look at the end result.
Of course. So here's an app demo. I will hand over the screen share to you, Maarten.
Thank you. Here we go. So currently I'm logged into the demo application, and for this live build, we have focused around the functionality of workflow. So not as much as unstyling. We used pretty much default pages from the workflow comments module and some pages that we create ourselves. And of course, in the normal Mendix project, you can style the application any way you want. But for this, we use the default paging. So let's get into the demo. I'm logged into the application as the production manager. I can start a new production request. And here I can set the number of cats I want to create. I set the cat price. And I need to select a cat robot. And in this case, I'm going to go with model 2 because I know that Willem likes it best. Got to keep Willem a little bit happy.
Yep.
And we're going to start the cat production workflow. And from the process, we know that there are now 2 tasks, one for the purchase manager. And I'm logging into the purchase manager right now. He has a dashboard with an overview of some tasks. And if I scroll down, I see that there's an open task. I can assign this task to myself. And then when I click on the task, I can say that the price is okay and complete the task. And now I log into the application as the supply manager. I also have the same dashboard. I can scroll down and see that there's a task for me to check the supply. I assign the task to myself, open the task, and I say that there are enough supplies to build these cats, and I can complete the task. And now from the process, we know that the cat row machine is getting a request to produce the cats. And I'm going to look into the application as the product manager again. And finally, we have a task to complete the production. And I will assign it to myself, open it up, and I see a nice message that my cat robot is complete. And I need to finish the task, which I will do. So this is basically the workflow that we're gonna make, a nice little process, and we're ready to start building.
Excellent. Now, before you do that, I have a question for the people out there watching us today. You expect to learn a good amount of workflow stuff, but I wonder, have you tried that workflow for yourself yet? Have you built anything? Let us know in the chat, and we'll get back to it later. Right, back to you, Maarten.
Yeah, great. So now let's get into building the workflow. Today we're going to start with a prepared version of the project. And Willem is going to do the clicking today, and I will be doing some narration of the steps that he's taking. Willem, can you share your screen and show us what we've prepared and what the starting point is?
Yes, I can certainly do that. So we are working in Mendix 9.1. And what we have for you today is a project with some security settings set up. So as Maarten mentioned in the demo, we have 3 user roles. We have a product manager, a purchase manager, and a supply manager, as you can see here. And well, for easy demoing, we have also added them as demo users. To make it even easier, we've also added some stuff to the navigation. We've set up some some role-based home pages, so the product manager, etc., will go to their home pages. We also have a cat catalog, so you can select a cat image when you start the production request, and there's also a database snapshot included in the project files. So when you run the app, you'll have that data as well. What we have also done is include the workflow commons module from the App Store. We've altered it a little bit. We use the account entity instead of the Mendix SSO user, just easier for demoing today. And what you will also find in the Cat Factory module is some resources. We have a constant value for the cat machine URL that we will be using later. And we have some basic stuff set up with the cat robots, amongst other things, a cat robot select page that we will be using later on during the build.
Yeah, great. That looks very good. So let's start building. And first off, we're going to start by creating the actual workflow. And we can do that by right-clicking in the App Explorer and add the workflow. And we're going to give it a nice name. And as you can see, there's behind the add workflow, there is a beta notice. So the workflow currently is in the beta state. Good to have in mind. And when we've created this, you can now see the workflow editor. And this is something completely new within Mendix. It looks a bit like a Microflow, but instead from going from left to right, it's going from up to down. And in this editor, we can model out the complete workflow, which we're going to show you. But first up, what we're gonna need is a context entity for this workflow. So in the Cat Factory domain model, Willem is gonna build a new entity, a production request entity. And we're gonna give it some attributes that we're gonna be using later on. So first off, we're gonna use a request identifier for the production request. And we just use an auto number here. Then we're gonna add some Booleans, a Boolean for the supply manager to check if the supply is okay. And a Boolean for the purchase manager, check if the price is okay. And we're gonna add a price as a decimal and a number of cats that we want to produce. And we need to set the association to the cat robot and do some security settings. Exactly. And now, because this is our
Is this just me, or is Maarten stuck?
I think Maarten is stuck.
I think so, huh?
Maybe you can continue where
I can take over
Maarten
from
left
here.
off. Yeah.
If you DM him a message that he is stuck, otherwise he might be talking
for sure.
while not knowing. Okay, cool. So what we need to do right now to have this production request available in our workflow is we have to set a generalization. And Maarten is back. Still on mute though, but he is back.
Here I am.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Guys.
Yeah, so we just created the entity with some attributes, and then you went for a little coffee break, but I'm happy you're back. So
yeah, couldn't continue without coffee. I was just saying, Willem, can you tell a little bit more about the generalization?
Exactly, I was about to. Yeah, so we're taking a look at the generalization that we have to set for the production request. As you see here, I'm going to select a generalization and I have a new entity available. It's called the workflow context. And what we need to do is we need to set this so it will become available in the workflow so we can use it later on, which we will show you in a bit. Before we do that, I want to show you real quick that the system domain model has been expanded a little bit with some new entities. We're not going to dive into those today, but if you have questions about this, read up on the documentation. There is a resources slide at the end of this webinar and at the end of this live build, and you can find some information what this all entails. So having said that,
let's continue. So we have the workflow context entity, and we need to add it to the workflow editor. So if you double click on the start, we can select the workflow entity that we just created. And this entity is gonna be with us throughout the workflow. And we have to set the security for starting the workflow. In this case, for the production manager, we can set a admin page to be able to see what the state of the workflow is. And in this case, in the workflow comments module, there's a standard page for it that we're going to use. It's a really nice feature from the workflow comments module. And we're going to give the workflow a name. And this name will also be shown in the workflow administrator pages. Great. Yes. So now we have our starting point, and we're going to need some pages for the product manager to be able to actually start the workflow in the UI. So we're going to add a page, a production request overview, and we're going to use a default grid for this. Exactly. And we're going to set the page header and add the production request to the grid. Yeah, by default, just fill it. And we're going to use the Mendix generate page option to create a pop-up page for the production manager to be able to start the production request.
Before I forget, let's set the access rules.
Exactly. Very good. And now in the pop-up page, we can just add the attributes that we need for the production manager, which are the price and the number of cats. And we can set the select page for the cat robots.
Yep, you're right.
Exactly.
Revert.
And in this case, we can just use a prepared select page. So it's already in the model. There we go. And we want to add the image of the cat so that the production manager can actually see which cat robot he has selected. Yeah, very good. So now what we have to do is we now currently have a save button, but we want to start, instead of saving, we want to start the workflow. And you can do that with a Microflow because there's a call workflow activity within the Microflow. But in this case, we use a button, the call workflow button. And with this button, you can select which workflow to start. In this case, our cat production. Give it a nice name. And then the product manager will be able to start the workflow. And I think we need to add the production request overview to the navigation.
Yes, we do. So let's set it as the role-based homepage.
Yeah, exactly. Great. So now we have done our first step. We can start the workflow. And the next step from the process is we're going to add a parallel split. And if Willem clicks on the toolbox, you can see that there are some new actions specifically for the workflow editor here. We're going to pretty much use all of them later on, but for now we're stuck with the parallel split. And as you can see, there will be two activities or two lines. And first up, we're going to create a user task for the supply manager. I'm going to give a caption that is shown within the workflow editor. Then we can assign the task. We can assign it using XPath or Microflow. In this case, we assign it to user roles of users with the user role supply manager. And we can set the security to only allow user roles with supply manager to be able to perform this task. Then we have to set the task name. And this task name is also shown to the user within the pages. So make sure to use a nice logical name. And we're going to create a new page. Yeah, and in this case, we can use some page templates from the workflow comments module. You see the user task extended and the user task basic. And for the first one, we're going to use the user task basic. And there's also really nice feature from the workflow comments module that you already have these kind of pages set up. So when we go to this page, you already see that it's filled with the production request entity, our context entity. We can show the supply manager the information that he needs, in this case, the price and the number of the cats. And we're going to add an image to also show the supply manager which cat robot is being produced. Exactly. There we go.
Let me do this real quick.
Yeah.
I can't drag my entities.
Otherwise, you can copy it from the production request.
Let's do that. That's quicker, right?
Yeah.
So we have the new edit page. Copy it and add it over here.
Exactly. And we're going to add a switch widget to be able to select whether there's sufficient supplies for this cat robot production. Also give it a label. Exactly. And we're going to need to set the security for this page. Yeah, so that the only supply managers can see this page. Okay, so that's our first task. And then we're going to add another task for the purchase manager in this case. And of course, a nice pun from Willem, the purchase manager.
It's awful, isn't it?
You'd almost think that Willem likes cats for some reason. I don't know.
Where would you get that?
Maybe it's the thing on your left side, behind your right shoulder.
That's for when I'm frustrated. I can just no. Just kidding.
Yeah, so the steps here are pretty much the same as we did with the supply manager. Setting a task name, setting a nice description. And we're also gonna create a new page. Again, using a template from the workflow comments module. Yeah, that's good. Very nice. Just added the price and number of cats to non-editable. Willem is copying over the image and adding a switch widget for the Boolean to be able to let the purchase manager check the price. And also for this page, we have set security, of course. And as you can see, there is a complete task button there. Willem, can you tell us a little bit more about that one?
Yes. So this is one of the nice building blocks that is new in Studio Pro. So if I open up this complete task button, it's an action button, just like the one that we use to start the workflow. You can also set a on-click event to complete a user task. Right here, you can select which user task you want this button to complete. So in our workflow, we want this to complete the purchase manager check price task. I think this is worth mentioning because it just enables you to build optimized pages, and just basically build it however you want.
Yeah, very nice. So we've got the starting of the production request. We got a parallel split for 2 user tasks. Now might be a good time to do some testing.
Yes, let me first fix this error because we set the generalization. We need to update security, and then it's gone. So let's quickly check and see what we built. And I think this is a great time to just point out that we have been, working for 15, maybe 20 minutes. And right now we have a working workflow. And this just amazes me how easy it is to set up a basic workflow.
So what do you think makes that so easy compared to building it out in workflows or something, and microflows or something?
It's a very good question. I think we have been handed so many building blocks that we would usually need to build using microflows and pages ourselves. And especially combining the new workflow editor with workflow comments, I think that is where the real power comes from.
Perfect. Let's take a look. I think it's finished.
It is. Let me open it up real quick. Here we go. Sign in as the admin because we have our demo users. So if I go to a product manager, I'll land on the page of the production requests. I can create a new production request. I'm giving away 3 cats. I want 500. And yes, let's go to Predator Cat and start production. So now the workflow has started. And if we log in as the purchase manager or the supply manager, we'll see a nice dashboard with 1 open task. If I assign it to myself and open it, I can do the same thing Maarten showed in his demo. I can set the price to OK and complete the task. Ta-da.
Perfect.
Cool.
First step done.
Yes.
Now let's continue with the rest of the workflow, because I believe there are some other types of activities in the toolbox that we can explore.
Definitely.
Yes.
So the next step from our process was letting an external application, in this case the GetRobot machine, know that it has to start producing something. And we do that by calling a REST activity. And to be able to do that within the workflow editor, we use a microflow. So we're going to use create a microflow that will call a REST activity. Exactly. Right. And when we go into that microflow, you immediately see that the production request already is added as a parameter. So we can do our work with that. We're using a call REST service activity. And we're going to specify the location. And in this case, we have a constant setup with the URL. Because we have prepared a external application that kind of mocks the GetRobot machine. And we're going to add the request ID to the call so that the machine knows what it's about. Yeah, very nice. Of course, it's going to be a post request, and we're going to set the response in a string. And for now, in this demo, the external application will always give back a true as a string response. But of course, you can imagine within a normal setup, you can handle all the possible outcomes that you want to do within this microflow. And it's actually really, really neat that you can add a microflow from within the workflow editor. It gives you so much flexibility, so much options to be able to create the workflow in the way that you need it. So in this case, yes, sir, Jan?
Yeah, I wanted to say, in a workflow process, workflow is by definition is a process that includes manual actions. Does the workflow wait for the output of the microflow, for example? Is it synchronous or asynchronous? What does it do with that? The reply, the response, basically.
Once again, a really good question, and we will find out in a little bit.
Excellent. Maybe I'm just jumping the gun here.
Oh, but that's good because it means it's a logical step, right?
Of course, and as you can see from the microflow, there were two outcomes: a true and a false boolean. And in the workflow editor, it immediately shows that we still have to do something. We have to handle these outcomes. So we're going to handle the true and false outcome, just like Jan wanted to know.
Yep.
Very good. And we're going to add some user tasks to these splits. And first up, in case of it's true, we're going to create a user task for the product manager to complete the production. And same goes as for the other user tasks. We have to assign it to a user or user role. In this case, all users with user role product manager, and we have to set security for it. We're going to give the task a nice name and this description. And after that, we can create a page for it. And the page is going to be similar as for the other task that we created. Also using a workflow comments template. And in this case, we don't need all the attributes. We just want to show the product manager that the GetRobot or robots are completed, are finished and produced, and that the product manager can complete the workflow.
Exactly.
Very good. I think you still need to set the security for that page.
You're absolutely right.
And of course, I've been asking questions, but if you're watching this and you have any questions about workflow for Maarten or Willem or me, put them in the chat and we'll get to them.
Yeah, very good. And now we're going to handle the false outcome. So in case the GetRobots are not produced, we're going to give the product manager an option to give two options, either to retry producing the cats or to say it's okay and finish the workflow. So we're also going to do this by adding some outcomes to this user task. But first up, we're going to give it a name, the task, and the task description. And of course, we need to create a page for this as well.
Yeah, but you were right. We should fix the outcomes first.
Yeah. So in this case, we have a retry outcome and a OK.
Okay.
Execute. And then we can create the page. So good. Okay, and if we go to the page, you immediately see that there are two buttons for both outcomes.
Yep. And this, I think, is really cool, right? Because we have multiple outcomes set up in our workflow. In our user task, you can select which ones you want here.
Yeah.
Like this.
And if we go to the workflow editor, we can actually let the retry do a retry by using the jump activity. And with this jump activity, you can go back or skip to a specific step within the workflow. In this case, we're going to go back to the start production. So if the production manager clicks on this button, the workflow will automatically go to the start production again and try to build the get robots again. So that's a very, very nice feature. And with that, I think we kind of completed our workflow process. And to me, this is amazing. We're building 25 minutes, 30 minutes maybe, build this completed workflow. And what's also very, very cool is if you have a client and you let the client take a look at this workflow, you will understand what the workflow is about and how the process is going, which is a really, really helpful tool to create these kind of workflows and applications. So I'm really excited about this. How do you feel about it, Jan?
Yeah, I think this is really incredible. You know, as we said at the start, a lot of companies are using workflow and are using processes in what all of their core capabilities, but you used to have to just model that out using microflows, using pages, and you'd have to create that workflow capability level yourself. So every Mendix developer has, I'm sure, developed some type of workflow process in the past, but it was all manual and everyone had to do it in their own way with their own requirements and their own best practices and so on. And I think this is what you've developed just now. It's incredible. You've developed a complete workflow process and approval steps, integrations, calling microflows, doing simultaneous actions, and even jumping back into the process in just 20-25 minutes. This is incredible. You wouldn't be able to build this just with microflows in such a short time. Do you have any idea how long this would have taken you if you would have done this without the Mendix 9 workflow feature? If you had to build these approval steps and everything yourself, are we talking 2 hours, 15 hours, a week? Well, I mean, you're experts, so I know you could do it quick.
Would have been a good thing to try that out before this live build.
Yeah.
But I think maybe double of the time, maybe.
At least. Yeah, because I think the beauty of workflow and the way this is set up, we haven't gotten around to showing that part, but by, for example, setting it to specific user roles, assigning the task to different user roles, you also handle the not happy flow. And that is what I think in cases like this always takes up most time. Building a workflow that is straightforward, that goes from point A to point B to C, etc. That is easy. But what if someone is out sick or leaves the company? And if you take that into account while building this workflow, I mean, all the building blocks are there, and that is what saves time.
Yeah, extending it, adding options, adding exceptions, all these things are much easier to add to the flow. Yeah. So just can you just give us a little recap of the most important things about what we've seen today?
Sure. Yeah, shall I? Okay. So I think really worth mentioning is the workflow commons module. To me, it's just well, it gives you so many pages, page templates, etc., that will help you build your first workflow really quick. Eventually, if you're in a large company, I can imagine extending on workflow commons yourself, so it's adheres to your company theming, etc. But just having this as a starting point, super good idea of you guys at Mendix. Being able to do the parallel splits also very worth mentioning, because, well, let's be honest, not all tasks go in an exact order. Some tasks can be done simultaneously, and well, I think we've planted the seed. I think that's what we wanted to do about integrating with external applications. Adding a microflow is easily done, and that just adds so much power to a workflow.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Now, I think an important question here is, of course, how can people get started themselves? Of course, they can just go into Mendix 9, download it now, and try some things out. But I know you guys sent me over a list of resources that helped you. So can you talk a little bit about these links? And we'll put these links in the chat as well, so you guys can check it out. But maybe you can comment on why these links were especially helpful to you.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first three links that we're seeing here are Mendix documentation links, and to me, these are always the first starting points to check out what's what. And as Willem described in the live build as well about the system entities, these docs really describe which entity does what and why it's there. So that's a good place to start. Then we have the interview from Willem and Paul Ketelaars with Daniel Dam about workflow, which is also a really good tool to hear about what's it's all about. And finally, there's a blog about how workflow can solve process problems. I think with this list and this live build, we're pretty set up to start building nice workflows.
Absolutely. Now, and to be clear, I think this is important to mention. So again, I'll put these links in the chat, but workflow right now is still in beta, right? So it's already really impressive that this is what we're able to build with workflow right now. And I really encourage people to try it out for themselves. Think of a process that involves some sort of approval or some sort of manual task, and try, instead of using microflows or your traditional way of developing this, try and thinking of how can I use workflow, right? Open that editor, look at the available options and think, how would I model this out just ideally? What's the ideal path or way of visualizing this? And I believe, at least in my experience, the workflow editor is even a level of abstraction up from workflows, because workflows already visualize logic in a really simple way. Microflows visualize logic in a simple way, and I think workflow takes that a step further. It's not just the individual technical actions, but it's actually relating to a person's action. I think that's an extra step that makes this much easier. So what I'm really looking for now is questions from the audience. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the chat. If you have any questions for us, let us know. So I see a question here from Paul. If you add a new button on the page, does it automatically add an outcome in the workflow editor?
I think
good question.
I think the answer is pretty simple. I think it doesn't. We haven't tried it in that sense, but it does work. Well, it gives you an option of outcomes that you can select. So adding an extra button to a page would not necessarily mean an extra outcome in the workflow.
In addition to that, if you create the page from the workflow as we did in steps, it will set the outcome. If there's just like we see with the OK and retry, it automatically creates 2 buttons with the outcome set there.
Yes.
Right. All right, good. What are your favorite parts of the experience, and which areas could still use some love? Because we are, of course, still in beta, so this is still being developed, and every month we're releasing new features and new functionalities. What are some of the things that you like now, and what are some of the things that you're looking forward to? Who wants to kick it off? I'm going to point at Willem. No one sees this, but I'm pointing at Willem.
Okay. Well, what I really like, I mean, for me as a developer, I had to get used to a new toolbox, but that is all fine, right? It's just drag and drop like we're used of. That's the way we used to work, and that all just works perfectly out of the box. You can see a lot of love has been put into this already. I know for a fact that workflow has been well, you guys have been building it for over a year, so I mean, it's really it shows. Yeah, what needs what could use some extra love? I think reusability, in a sense that you could perhaps reuse workflows inside workflowception.
Yeah, calling a workflow in
yeah.
a workflow, just like you'd call a microflow in a microflow, right?
Exactly. And another call to action that's not necessarily only pointed to Mendix, but also to you, the audience, is best practices. I mean, this is a new feature. We're all really looking forward to learning how this behaves under the hood, so to say. So yeah, please share best practices that you have, things that you have questions about with it on Slack, etc. Because I think it's up to us, to the community, to make this the best product it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think it's worth giving a shout out here to André Laux, who posted a demo in Mendix 9 and Workflow on YouTube about the employee onboarding tutorial. This is a really comprehensive build similar to what we're doing today about workflow as well. And this really helps everyone just get familiar with it, see how you do things. And there's not one correct way. So yeah, let us know how you build workflows, what you're running into, what you think is the best way of building something. And that's just going to help everyone make better workflows, basically. Let's see. What is not available is a mechanism that handles overdue tasks. Right. That's a good point. Is that something that you guys recognize?
Was it a question or more a statement? Like say.
Well, it's more of a statement from Andre here in the chat that overdue task mechanism is not available at the moment. Is that something that you guys had in mind, or that you were looking for, or that you think could be useful?
Sorry. Yeah. We haven't used it for the demo because we wanted to keep it short. But yeah, that's a very nice mechanism to set the due date for tasks, to be able to push the workflow into a more planned kind of environment with due dates set. Yeah.
And I saw someone in the chat already say, I'm curious about this because we might have a project coming up where workflow is going to be a core part of the solution. Are there projects that you guys have coming up where workflow is going to be a potential solution?
Yeah, for a matter of fact, we are actually building one right now, which is also the reason why we started building in Mendix 9, because workflow just takes away so many of the things that we would have to build manually, which is now available out of the box. We do have to mention that Go Live is in the LTS version, so that's 9.6. Workflow will be out of beta, but well, it was either start in Studio Pro 8 and then do a upgrade, or start in Studio Pro 9, and we have like half a year ahead of us. So yeah, there was no issue on our end to just start building in Studio Pro 9. And yeah.
Perfect. Very, very exciting. So if anyone would even have a reason to upgrade to Mendix 9 right now, it would definitely be workflow capabilities in that sense. Fantastic. I'm just going to quickly look at the chat, see if anyone else is asking any questions or giving us any input.
In the meantime, Maarten, I'm actually quite curious what you think is the best feature of workflow, or what you think could deserve some extra love.
I think the fact that you're building it, I think that's
yeah, for sure. That you are doing the clicking.
Yeah.
No, I actually really like the parallel splits with the 2 parallel tasks that need to be handled before going into the next step. I think that's so strong feature, and normally you would have to handle that with Microflows and check if tasks are complete. And this is done so fast. And from things that I do want to see improved on the workflow, but I kind of think it's coming. It's in the current moment you cannot scroll into or zoom out of the workflow editor, and if you have a large workflow, that of course would be very handy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. On the splits, can you add more than 2 options? Can you just continue adding until? Well, I wonder what the limitations are until whatever limitation it is.
Until you don't have a grasp anymore on how the workflow goes.
Yeah. So in that case, that would not be best practice.
No.
So you could run a task, but at the same time you could run a microflow or any other thing, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I just realized that there actually is a due date. Let's see, someone actually just messaged me. You could create a microflow timer, then check the tasks and make logic accordingly. An actual due date is it's on the roadmap, so that's good. Nice. It's on its way. Right. Well, of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know more about workflow, you can already check it out right now. Actually, Mendix 9.2 was just released today, Studio Pro 9.2. So check it out and see what's new. There is some new functionality. Make sure you read the release notes and don't upgrade any of your crucial projects without careful testing. Yeah, we are planning a lot of content for Mendix World, obviously. So if you want to learn more about Mendix 9, Mendix Workflow, and everything that we have in store for upcoming versions, make sure that you pre-register for Mendix World right now, mendixworld.com, and we'll be announcing the agenda soon. So stay tuned for that. So for now, I want to thank Maarten and Willem. Thank you guys so much for taking us on a practical deep dive into workflow. It's really incredible what you've been able to build in just 20, 25 minutes. There's much more to explore. So thank you.
Very welcome.
And for everyone out there watching us today, make sure you join us again next week, because we'll have a release deep dive into Mendix 9.2, where we'll talk more about everything related to mobile and UI in Mendix 9.2 with Danny Roest, Willem van Zantvoort, and Paul Ketelaars. So we'll be, if you're a fan of Willem, you'll see him again next week. If you're a fan of Maarten, maybe you'll have to wait a little longer. But thank you all for watching. My name is Jan de Vries. I'm your low-code host, and I'll see you in the next session.